Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of your favorite podcast. I'm Nick Manning. This is the Mile High Sports Symposium here on the MHRT network. We'll be joined shortly by my co-host JT. You can find us on the old Twitter sphere at JT Matthews 01. You can find me at Dr_N Manning. Wanted to say hello. Appreciate all of you starting to roll in and jumping in at the new time and all that good stuff. As soon as I get the nod from my co-host, I'll pull him in. No nod yet. We'll get there. But it's football week. So we started last week. Had some fantastic stuff to cover, and today the pads have been popping for 3 straight days. So if that doesn't get your blood boiling, I don't know what does. Before we get there, though, if you can, in the chat, let me know how you're doing. My man. That's right. That's how you got to start the day. For sure. And he does know. Only if I'm a Cowboys fan. There's my dude.
Wow, this red shirt really makes me look extra red. I shouldn't have done that today. Good to know. Future notes for next stream.
I
don't ever wear this. I don't ever wear this, but it's like we're in a laundry, I wouldn't say predicament, but like, I just wasn't feeling a lot of the stuff. I was like, I'll just put on a tank top. I'll change at some point. It'll be fine. And then I've just been wearing it, and now I regret that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta take the easy path sometimes, and it's just, it doesn't get much easier right now.
No, it does not.
Unless you're a Browns fan.
It does not.
That'd be it.
That's true.
I mean, go Shadur, but like,
I mean, still, yeah.
That's
I mean, it's not even as bad as a Giants fan, or.
I know that even kind of looks better right now. Somehow.
Well, how are you, brother?
Yeah, I don't know what you said, so I'm just gonna flow with you right now, and then when you want me to pick it up, I'll pick it up. But yeah, I'm good.
I'm talking, so if you don't know what I'm saying, that's on you.
That's true. It's because I'm late and because I forgot that we were changing the time. And I did tell you to text. In my defense, I said, shoot me a text, remind me.
That is true.
And I didn't get that text. And so then I here we are. But I'm here. I made it. I'm fashionably late, not extremely late. So
yeah,
I'll accept.
It's all right. Yeah. So how are you, first and foremost? And then let's do some quick Nuggets talk for fun.
I'm sorry, I was loud on my side. What'd you say?
Said, how are you? Before we get into Nuggets talk, just to piss off my guy.
I know. We gotta throw it in. We gotta fit it in there. No, I'm good. It's Wednesday. It's my day off, so I'm enjoying. I got outside, shot some hoops by myself. I've been practicing my jumper, trying to get it a little bit better, trying to get a little bit more manageable out there. So, and then I'm not just like I got to be in the paint or it's nothing. Of course, now the dogs are going crazy, but I feel good. I feel like I did something with my morning. It's a good start. I caught up on Big Brother, which I was behind like 3 episodes, and so I'm ready for tonight's ep that I can watch with the wifey. And I think we're in pretty good position right now.
Well, my elbow is still not working, so my jumper probably not great. But
mine's not good. It's just a little bit better, which is a lot better for most people.
That's fair. A little bit better, just 1% or something.
Yeah. So, I mean, if I get like 5% better over the course of the summer, that's improvement. I'm not gonna go join a men's league or anything. I'm just gonna, shoot around, and then when I get the chance to play some pickup, I'll play a little pickup, and I'll be happy that I at least am a somewhat serviceable out there, not just like a statue in the post.
I got you. So speaking of statue in the post, because I'm just kidding aside from Nicola made the rounds via the internet.
Yeah.
My man loves winning. My man loves winning. Nikola
He
Jokic.
he moves to the beat of his own drum, and that's why we love him.
That's true. That is true. Hold on really quick. My man.
Yeah, your mic was like doing something. Not sure what it was, but it was doing something.
Is it doing it still?
I can kind of hear it better, but it's not amazing.
It's not good.
But I'll keep going. I'll vamp. Don't worry.
All right.
Yoke was in China. I think we talked about that a little bit. It's funny because that's not like really what you're used to seeing from Jokic is like these big tours, but he's got a shoe brand now, and that shoe brand is located, I think, in China, and so he made the rounds. And man, people showed up. He was a superstar out there, more so than you'd maybe expect for a quiet superstar, quote unquote. But I think he's got the international players' hearts, and it's definitely fun to see him interacting in that way and kind of, I don't want to say acting the part a little bit more, but just like owning his position in the league a little bit more. I love that Jokic is a humble superstar. I'll always love that about him, and I don't anticipate that'll change too much. But it is fun to just kind of get like that, see him get that international at least attention. He was racing subway trains and taking soundbar shuffles off the street and all sorts of fun stuff. So it was cool to see him kind of do his little tour. And then there was some, I don't even know, like an Instagram pic of his agent on a yacht or a boat in who knows where with LeBron James, which is weird and interesting. It said something about the 2026 offseason. I don't know if I should be reading anything into that. I don't know if Nuggets fans should be reading anything into that, but it is something to know. It's like, LeBron's always working under the radar a little bit, off the record a little bit, getting calls in, getting meetings in. He's prepping for the future. I just I want to know what that was all about,
I mean, I think that there's some smoke. I think that they share an agent.
I don't know, to be honest.
I don't know. But I know that agent was with him on a yacht.
I assume they didn't just because I assume Jokic has like a Serbian agent, but I have no idea who his agent is.
I bet he probably has a team. I would assume you make that much money. It's probably not a guy. But we've talked about it before about how the fit would make sense.
Yeah.
You got a guy who has a high basketball IQ, is willing to make a good pass. I think all of those things are valid. So I would be in favor of, depending on who went out. But I like LeBron. I think.
Well, the other thing is like, is the plan for LeBron to come to Denver or for Jokic to go to LA? That's the other plan, right? Like, obviously, not in favor of Jokic leaving Denver. I don't think that that's necessarily the case, just to put it out there. But if they're talking, then there's probably, they're probably talking about all scenarios, and there's probably been mentioned, Jokic turned down his extension, which we expected because he'll make more money next year. But I think that at this point in LeBron's career, you'd have to be willing to give someone up, and probably a good couple of guys just to match salary. You'd have to. And so it becomes a difficult proposition to bring someone in without moving out a Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon, et cetera, et cetera. And so I just wonder what that would end up looking like. Hopefully nothing. Hopefully, I like the group that we have. I don't think LeBron's needed. Would it be cool? For sure. Be cool to have LeBron down on the Nuggets, but I'm hoping maybe it's something else. Maybe he's doing some planning for Bronny's future instead of his future,
Maybe his Deion Sanders is
maybe like the planning being like, let's get him to stick in the NBA somehow, And maybe if I talk to enough people, someone will take a chance on him.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I don't know.
I mean,
It's weird. It's weird that he didn't play much in the summer league. I thought that was interesting. I don't think he was hurt. And when the Nuggets played him, they didn't play. He didn't play. So I don't know. I don't know what the plan is for Bronny, but I'm guessing that LeBron's probably trying to line up options for him too. So,
yeah, I mean, the players have the power in that league. If it were me, I'd use it, and I would have those conversations. It's not like those aren't happening all the time. But quick hitter points. So one, I think we both would be okay with LeBron coming, depending on the cost. So right. I don't know that I want to give up Aaron Gordon and Jamal Murray. Right. Like I don't want to give up a 3-year window for a 1-year window. Right. That said, so moving on from LeBron, I think we both would want him here. If it made sense, like why not? However, let's deal with a little bit more in the realism. Quick question for you. Sounds like there's some internet rumors. It's not a rumor that Malcolm Brogdon might be maybe the final use of that 10 million plus cap space.
Yeah.
That the Nuggets got. How do you feel about if that's the move that they make to kind of solidify this 10 to 12?
I think that's great. To be honest, I think if you're looking for one more guy or one more position for depth, you're probably looking at a point guard or a ball handler. Brogdon, he's been a journeyman. I think he's definitely flashed at times. I think it just kind of depends on where he lands and how good the fit is at the time. But, I think I worry a little bit about Pickett being your backup point guard. I do. I know that they probably could create some rotations where you don't have to play Pickett if you don't need to. You have enough decent ball handlers between Jamal and Jokic. And Aaron Gordon even at times can bring the ball up court. Once you get in that half court set, you don't really need quite as much mobility or ball handling just with the way they run their offense. So is it something that they're in dire need of? I don't think so, but I don't know. I'm a bit of a Pickett doubter. I think that he can be a guy in the league, but I think he's just like a depth bench guy. I don't think he is your backup point guard necessarily. So I would like to see how he develops, but I think ultimately I like if they were to bring in a guy and it's Brogdon, another veteran guy who's been around the league who, can play, can score and get a little bit hot and take over periods of games if you need him to off the bench. I have no issue with that. I think that that's probably a pretty good use of that available money.
Yeah. I mean, he struggled over the last couple seasons staying healthy, but last season averaged almost 13 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, half steal a game. So I think if you add a guy like that, especially with high basketball IQ, check. Ability to score, check. I think understands and knows his role, check. I think what we saw a couple playoffs ago was when the Minnesota Timberwolves would press, right? And especially Jamal Murray. And I know that he was hurting a little bit and things like that, but I wouldn't say that he is an elite ball handler. And so with that, we don't really have or didn't have until last year when you brought Westbrook in, you didn't really have another guard or a wing that was a strong ball handler. And so I think if you can get a guy like that who also will understand his role, that like, hey, I don't need you to do that when you have Jokic on the floor or, whatever that might be. I don't think Malcolm Brogdon would come here with ego and focus on, trying to get his two or all that good stuff. So I would be in favor of. I like that. I think right now it's definitely, it's not a place, in my opinion, to go for a young ups. Like even if there's any of those guys left, I don't know that I would use that money there. I think it's what can we do to solidify a championship run. But I think, you go for a guy that can defend multiple positions and a guy that gives you a plus. And the fact that he's versatile, he can score. I think we talked about it a bunch about the bench, like just dries up. Guys can't create shots. I think you got a guy who you can lean on, as well as, Jamal Murray, knock on wood. If he's injured for some time, it'd be nice to have a veteran guy that's in there to kind of keep it going and can handle that the offense doesn't have to change. So then doesn't have to switch to just a primary Jokic dominated type of deal. So I would be all for it. Sounds like you would like it too. And then I think the last thing we talked about is, even though I knocked on wood, it was just in doing so. That's fair. But we're going to talk about right now, healthy off season. So last season, or the previous season, he ended it injured. And so we got, this last season, I believe it was his highest points per game average season, right?
Yeah.
We're close to something like that. So
and there was weirdness
what do we expect from non-injured Murray?
Yeah, I know last season too, with all the like Team Canada stuff, there was some injury rumors, some weirdness around that never really kind of fully came to light. I think this is going to be truly his first healthy off season for a while, and like full off season, not short abbreviated. Won a championship and then you're back in a month and a half back at training camp.
Yep.
So I'm interested to see. It sounds like he has been around the facility. He was down in Vegas for summer league. We've seen him do that before. For periods of time. I think it's just a wait and see. I don't know that we're getting much Murray coverage right now. I'm not seeing him in the gym per se. I'm not seeing what his body looks like. Not like we're seeing with Luka, guys like that are making some big changes to take a next step. To see him healthy for a good stretch though will be nice. And maybe you just need time in the off season to get your body right. And when it's already right, you can get it more right. You're not compounding on even like little injuries that might end up biting you in the butt down the line at some point. So maybe starting from a more healthy baseline will be a step in the right direction for him. If he can come into the season, and I don't know about take off exactly or pick up where he left off, but at least some sort of similar version of Murray that we see, late season.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we could be talking about a potential push for an all-star, something that we've been wanting for him for a long time. It seems like Chris said, he's playing himself into shape every year, kind of getting his legs under him as the season goes along. And I get it. It's a long season. And when you play in the playoffs, it's especially long. Guys have families, guys have things they want to do, ways they want to spend their time. And it's not always going to be on the basketball court. But if you're serious about being a contender next year and you're serious about pushing for a championship, which I think they are, then maybe we'll see a little bit of a change. That's the hope, at least.
Yeah, I mean, all of those reasons, right? He's a human, and with all of that stuff, yep. We also can be critical because you are in the public eye, and if you make a choice to do this that impacts your output here, and that's what we see, we're allowed to say we need more from you. I mean, essentially, the last 4 seasons, he has averaged 21 points a game on 47.5% shooting and a 3-point percentage at about 40%, about 4 rebounds a game and about 6 assists a game with about a steal and a half. So he's been like consistent the last 4 years, essentially in those statistical numbers. However, last year he played 36 minutes a game for 67, which is his highest total since 2018. Previous couple seasons, so especially when the Nuggets won the championship, he only averaged 32 minutes a game. And so I think hopefully with Bruce Brown coming back, with Tim Hardaway Jr. coming in, I think you got guys that you can hopefully extend those minutes. We talked about that with Jokic, about, if we can get that 36, 38 minutes to 34 minutes. Hopefully then that helps. I really hope for Jamal's sake, because I think there's, do you necessarily have to come in to training camp in like basketball shape? Maybe not, but I also think by the end of training camp, you should be in basketball shape. You got to come prepared enough that when it's really time, when the games matter, that you are fit to do that activity, right? It's like someone getting hired at some organization and they kind of train them and they put them out on the floor, they put them in, but they didn't really get all the training yet. Some of the training they're going to do later, like then that person's not equipped to, you can't expect them to be able to, or they're not prepared to. And I think for this team, I think for their own good, right? Like, I think that the championship season's the one I can remember in the last several where they really came out strong. Every other season, to be honest, it takes a bit. November finally kicks in, December, then they kind of start winning when it turns to the year. And then what if they start winning earlier? Right. So that as you start getting to the playoffs, right, you could be a little bit more strategic. So I expect a pretty determined Jamal. Let's see though.
Yeah, I mean, we just got to wait and see. There's no definitive answer. I think we're hopeful and optimistic.
Do you think we will? And if so say he comes in fit, which I think we're going to get the best beginning version of him that we've seen in a little while.
Sure.
So with that, right, assuming that that's true, if he's averaged 21 on 48 and 40 shooting, if you were to guess, right, we're not going to predict injury. He's going to play. Yep, Chris, you're right. He has. I mean, we're going to say he plays 72 games, which is
okay.
Misses 10 games for whatever reason. Give me his points per game total. What do you think we get at? Do you think it still stays around the 21? Do you think he finally gets up to 24, 25?
No, I don't know. I think you're probably over the course of the season. I think you're probably plateauing at like that 20 to 24, 23 range. I love to see him take a step, especially, Jamal has always been a good shooter from the outside. I think it's fair at times to call him streaky. And I think there's definitely games where he's just not as engaged as other games. And so if he can find a way to maintain kind of that intensity and that locked in mentality game to game, then maybe he could take a jump and maybe, increase the amount of threes he's taking per game. Maybe you see a jump in points. But I think with the offense being so predicated on Jokic, I mean, he's really got to be intentional about creating opportunities for himself, or, putting himself in positions to be a little more aggressive offensively as opposed to deferring. And I think that we see that in the course of like playoff series. We see that in the course of like big games throughout the season. But I think it's going to come down to those, the games that maybe don't feel quite as important, your Tuesday night versus the Utah Jazz, your, Thursday night versus whomever, right? That he's got to be willing to put in that same type of production. I think we know, but I wouldn't bet on it. I thought last year to kind of make a push for maybe his first All-Star, and he just kind of first half of the season went by and he just kind of was in typical Jamal Murray mode. So I don't know that I would be bold enough to make that prediction again, but I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that he will at least come into the season a little more ready. But I don't know what that means for the team.
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna go on a limb. I'm gonna say that he will average about 24 points a game. And so with that, though, kind of looking at where would that put him? So Darius Garland made here's all the all-star players that are at guard position. So Jalen Williams, 21 points. Cade Cunningham, 26. Garland, 20. Tyler Hero, 23. Evan Mobley, 18. Never mind, he's in the front court. Anthony Edwards, 27. Jalen Brunson, 26. Shea at 32 and some change. Donovan Mitchell, 24. You got Trae Young at 24. So to me, it's a little bit of if he can get in the 23, 24 range, especially when it comes 24 points a game. Sorry. If he can score about 24 points a game, I think you put yourself in there, right? And especially if this team is first or second in the West, and he's in essence, make a bucket or get an extra foul call a game, right? That's all he really has to do to hit that. Be a little bit maybe more efficient in the paint, get the paint a little bit more. I think that the team will be able to spread quite a bit better with the new additions. So hopefully he's got more space, which maybe that alone increases his field goal percentage, which would add a bucket a game. So I think he can get to 23. I think he will, and I think if he does, and this team is up there, I think he'll get some consideration. I think Jalen Williams is a nice player, but statistically they're about the same dude. When you look at kind of output, obviously defensively, Jalen is a better player, but assists are lower. 2 passes. Yeah. So Jamal Murray, fringe all-star, we'll see. I think it'll be interesting. I think we'll know within the first 10 games if he's really got it. Because in my opinion, if he comes in and plays well from the jump, then I think that shows kind of how he took the offseason. I think if it takes him a while, it doesn't mean the season's over or anything like that. But it definitely, in my opinion, kind of goes again to he's got to warm into the season as opposed to coming in and being ready.
Yeah. I wonder how much I was looking. Chris, you put a comment and said also would help you be one of the top teams in the conference. I wonder what kind of mentality they'll have coming into the season. Obviously, I think they know that they're contenders. I think they're all on the same page. I think everyone seems to be on the same page with that. It is a little interesting having a rookie head coach take over a championship contending team and to kind of see what kind of attitude and I don't know how they approach the beginning of the season and throughout, because I think, if this was say a Michael Malone led squad, I think that you're probably pushing for top seed, maybe trying to just go out there, make a statement night in, night out and say like, hey, we think we're the best in the league. Let's go get this. Mm-hmm. Will they have that mentality is what I wonder, or is it going to be more of a feeling out process again, right? You've got a new head coach. You've got a whole new coaching staff, aside from a couple of guys. You've got a lot of new guys in the building. Is there going to be some forming that has to happen before they really kind of come together and are able to kind of push for that top conference or top of the conference seeding? Or are they going to come in right away with that mentality like, hey, we think we're the best. We're going to go prove that we're the best night in, night out. That's probably the biggest thing that I'm looking at. I think Jamal's your biggest X factor throughout the season. I think the Nuggets obviously the Nuggets will be good as long as Jokic is playing, but Jamal takes them to that next level. But I wonder what the head coaching experience is going to be like as the season launches and even into training camp.
With the vets that they brought in, I'd be shocked if they did. With Bruce and with Hardaway and even Valanciunas, those guys are kind of let's get crap done vets, right? And I think with that, hopefully, that presence is one that keeps the rudder still. So I agree that's a little bit of are they smelling their own? But hopefully the last two, especially for the guys that I'm a little bit more concerned, really, it's like Christian Brown, who at least effort-wise I'm not worried about. Peyton Watson, a little bit of like understand your role, and when is an opportunity to play a little YOLO, and when you got to lock it in and make a sound basketball decision.
Right.
And then, really with that, it's Jamal. I think now you have some other guys who might not have your talent necessarily, but Bruce is going to play hard and he's going to play effective and he's going to play both ends. And so is Hardaway. And so it's a little bit of like, if you want that Michael Porter treatment where you get subbed out on defense, at the end of the game, you got guys that can do that, and he'd be an asset to trade next year. That would give them some more cap flexibility, et cetera. So it's a little bit of I think even though his contract kicks in, the extension is in, the opportunity here to really kind of create a new veteran win at all costs kind of desperate. And I would say you kind of need that.
Yeah.
What is it? I heard the Hagler quote. Dang it. was it? He said, it's hard to get up at 5 a.m., to work on the street when you're sleeping on satin sheets, right? And it's like, Jamal, do you remember what it was like to, like, you didn't have respect in the league. No one really cared who you were. Jamal, playoff Jamal Schmal. Like, everyone, it was the bubble, and that's all you got, right? People forgot you. Do you get that back, right? And with the urgency and the desperation to make every play in game 46 that you would make in game 5, right? Like, that's kind of the mentality. And I know that it's not always going to be that easy to have that intensity all of the time, but do you have guys that can pick you up while you are trying to get your stuff together, right? Not everyone will have it every night, but ideally enough guys have it every night. And if you can keep people from checking out where it's not your key contributors, if Jamal checks out and PJ is unavailable, we saw what happens, right? It's just this team doesn't have the talent to be able to put the ball in the basket when the top scorers, are either inefficient or disengaged. And so you bring Cam Johnson, who I think is a savvy fit next to Jokic. I think you have guys now that that probably don't have to be the primary option to stay locked in to score, but can be ready to be a primary option. And so that part's super exciting. So any last thoughts before we turn to some Rocky Nate? Just kidding.
No, I love Jamal. I hope that he comes out and has his best season yet. I just, my worry is that he just kind of settles into the season, and maybe at this point he's done pushing for an all-star. It's tough. The West is tough. And so I understand why he hasn't made one yet. And I understand he hasn't helped himself in that way, but I love Jamal. I always love Jamal. He's been such a huge part of this team. And so I hope that he comes in and shows people, proves me wrong, and I'm not really a doubter, but I just, I think what we can know what to expect from him. I hope that he shows that he's got another level, and that's the hope. But we can, let's transition to some Broncos talk. We all know that's why.
You kick us off where you want to start, G.
Well, you want to throw Chris's comment up there, because I think that's interesting. He said Diane Rossini on the Rich Eisen show.
I know our title let in with the hype train, right? And
yeah.
That was even before we got here. And so if anyone wasn't familiar, so Diane Rossini and Chase Daniel, not Rossini, sorry, Kay Adams and Chase Daniel. Were at practice. If you saw their work, essentially, they threw on the Super Bowl. Dark horse. This team is a contender for that. And then you got Dan Rossini, who is a very prominent name in the NFL in the sense of Dan has been doing it for a long time. Yeah. I mean, what do you? Let's go with that. Just the hype, right? So maybe even setting the stage a little bit from where we've been since 2015. Right? And there was kind of a height of hype, even probably after game 4 of 2016, because then the Broncos started 4-0. Trevor Siemian looked like the truth. Holy crap, we found this guy. We found essentially Brock Purdy, right? 7th round guy. Oh man, he's the dude. And gets off 4 touchdown performance against the Bengals on the road. We're there, as kids say. We're lit. Main character energy, fam. No cap. Anyway, and so
not a skill issue.
So with that, the Broncos really haven't been, outside of really kind of the first season that Russ came, seen as a team that really not just could be competitive, but that could be a threat.
Right.
And so getting here now, I feel like a lot of Bronco fans, we have, our defense has been up a little bit. Come on, guys, we'll be good. And then we get let down every year, all the stuff. And so having, in my opinion, kind of real expectations for really for first time, long time, last decade, this team is expected to make the playoffs and could make a run. Well, you got folks who have now kind of been through camp, been through practice, said, this team, I think this team is it. Are you buying into the hype? Not just our internal optimism, but you know what? Enough of the outside world now is pretty bullish on the Broncos. Are we taking the cheese?
I
know I really like asking you this because you're like,
I might surprise you, but I kind of am.
All right.
And I'm usually anyone who's listened to us for any length of time knows that I'm usually the Debbie Downer of the group. I don't know. There's something about Bo's off season and what we've heard that really makes me believe in him, not just as like a good quarterback, but as a guy who could be potentially a really like top 5 guy quarterback in this league. And I think if he is able to make a jump, even just, from a top, whatever he was at the end of the season to top 10, you're talking about, one of the better guys in the league at that point. And then, with the defense around him, the way that they've built it, the guys that they've brought in, I think that I'm probably more apt to lean on the defense as kind of a reason for them to be a threat than the offense or Bo Nix's play. But I think that if he has the ability to take a step forward, then I just wonder if we can kind of close the gap. If we can, those teams that I see as just like maybe just a hair above us as far as maybe not roster construction, but just kind of execution and understanding of the game and understanding of situations. If we can kind of leapfrog that and kind of end up in that top category, if we can kind of pass up the Chargers and the Bengals and the kind of, I won't say bottom feeders of the playoff picture, but just kind of those lower tier competitors, and kind of make a jump into that next tier where, you've got the coaching staff. If you've got the quarterback, you've got the defense. I mean, those are 3 pretty huge pieces of the puzzle. It's all going to be predicated on Bo's growth, though. Like, I think you can have the best defense in the NFL, and in today's day and age, there's so many good quarterbacks out there that you can still get beat. And so you've got to be able to win games offensively, and you've got to be able to win games with your defense. And I think right now they've got the ability to do both, but you're probably leaning on the defense a little bit more to save you at times. I think if they can kind of even that out where the offense is kind of at least, on par with what the defense is putting out on a week-to-week basis, you're really a tough team. And so I don't think it's crazy to say. Would I bet it? Probably not. But I think that to have that, I think they need to have that attitude. I think they need to put that expectation out there for themselves, especially as a young team. Like, if I'm Sean Payton, I'm going out there and saying, like, I believe in this roster. I believe in Bo Nix. I believe in what we're building here. And I think that we have the guys in the room right now that can push for a Super Bowl. And I hope that that's what they're talking about. And I hope that that's how they're feeling internally. I would guess that's the case. That's what it seems to be, or that's what seems to be echoed from the Kay Adams and the Chase Daniels of the world. But yeah, I mean, I am buying the hype. Am I cautiously optimistic? Yeah, but I can see a pathway where it's a possibility for sure.
I'm not gonna buy it because I was already on the dance.
Right? Yeah, that's true.
I don't need to buy it because I said from jump.
Because you already got stock.
I think, I said right after the off season, and really kind of after free agency, it was a little bit of like, where's the hole? And so before the draft, you'd be like, it's running back, right? Which for most of us, that position has been devalued in a sense of like, you don't need elite to get good production out of there. And then since even the end of, or, since the draft, you had RJ Harvey and you had J.K. Dobbins to a running back room, that is in essence still, that's your weak spots like that. And the unknown of punter, where Crawshaw is, he's starting to pick it up. Distance won't be a problem. It's all the things. So you've had a sound special teams outfit for a bit. Sean Payton does not take that lightly. And so again, if your weakest spot is running back, and you're pretty deep throughout for the first time, long time. Hunters are people. That's true. They have real face masks now, most of them. So
that's true.
Yeah, for sure. And I think Jamie Crosher, I think he's going to be an upgrade over Riley Dixon. You just don't know that until the games start going.
Sure.
But ESPN ranked the Broncos with the 6th best roster in the NFL, which to me, that is that next tier. That is that's divisional round, challenging for a spot in the championship game, right? And so same with NFL.com, so that the top 10, in the top 10 of most complete teams, because your offensive line is strong. Your receivers, though, maybe not overly flashy. There is a diverse skill set in there and a coach that prefers that. Now you have Evan Ingram as your starting tight end. Again, the Broncos didn't lose anyone. They lost Cody Barton, who filled in for, replaced Josie Jewell. And that really was your defensive loss. You bring in Greenlaw, who Mike Tyson in football pads is what John Payton said, which if you look at him, for sure, that dude's thick. 2 C's, his neck is like 3 necks.
That's true.
And then on offense, Javonte Williams, who I know absolutely is probably shining in Dallas.
For sure. That's
your only loss of a starter on offense. J.K. Dobbins had 900 plus rushing yards last year. And a plethora of plus 20-yard runs. No running back on the Broncos roster last year had a run over 22 yards. So you look at just that, if that's your swap, with a very cohesive offensive line, essentially you bring back the room. And then you add some, undrafted free agents. You bring in, he's not running with the ones. Shocker. He'll protect his butt off on 3rd down, and he'll be open over the middle on 3rd and 8. So you tell me where the hole is. And if in the end, it's going to rely on Bo Nix. If Bo Nix can make, avoid the sophomore slump and utilize it as the 2nd-year jump, this team can be, I think this team really can be a team that challenges. I mean, if you look at CJ Stroud last year, CJ Stroud wasn't bad. It was hard to go from ridiculously good to even better, especially when your offensive line was just garbage. And so they still won a playoff game again for the 2nd time. So, and gave Kansas City a handful. If Tank Dell doesn't go down, maybe that game's a little bit different. And so if that, again, is kind of the model. So again, Broncos were 10-7 rookie season, just like the Texans were. And you make those additions on top of the continuity throughout the roster. No lies detected. I don't know that I would go Bo Nix for MVP because I don't know. I think Drew Brees got 1.
I think 1.
And so with that, I don't necessarily know. He is a different player than Drew Brees. That is for sure. But if you're looking at just in totality, it's not like he didn't have worthy seasons of that. For a while, he was the leading passer in the history of the league. And so I don't know that I would predict a MVP for Bo, but I absolutely think Bo is closer to his help by closing the gap between an average quarterback, what we got kind of from Russ, and the elite quarterbacks. I mean, you saw him go toe-to-toe with Joe Burrow, who was just a man on a mission last year. And Mahomes in Arrowhead, but kind of before he really, really kind of took off. And so if you can show out pretty well, he wasn't the reason why the Broncos lost in Baltimore. I'll tell you that. Without a holding call that in the first half ends maybe 17-14 and it's a different game. They probably still lose that, but he was playing pretty well before the wheels came off. So, yeah, I think the hype is real, and I think we all felt it, and we're super excited for camp. And I think now that some of the external folks are getting to see it live, and to your point, the defense is the reason, right? And they dominated the majority of the practices, and everything that I've heard from folks or read from people I trust, it's not even that the offense is bad, right? It's not like previous years where you have a pretty good defense that's beaten up on a bad offense. This defense is just, they're scary. They're scary good. You even lose 2 linebackers, and undrafted free agent of Bailey is tearing guys up. And that just goes to show, I think, 1, depth on this team, but 2, I think this team expects itself to be that team. It is in that building. It is we're going to be as good as we decide to be, and I think they have the right guys at that organization right now to continue to keep the standard, which is really interesting because I don't know if anyone on the roster has a Super Bowl ring. I don't know, but you have a bunch of guys, I think, that know what it takes to win, and a bunch of guys who haven't won that are tired of not winning, right? That desperation that I talked about with the Nuggets. I think it's there for this team. So you had talent, right? And what did Sean say last year? Young and hungry. Yep. I think that's this team because it's still a fairly young team, and there's some hunger for respect, for winning, for establishing or reestablishing the Bronco expectation, and get on the train, people.
Yeah, I think, and just kind of thinking about it, the defense is just ahead developmentally wise. The offense, just because of the age of some of those guys, the draft picks that you spend that you need to pop. I think they do need 1 or 2 guys, Bo to Ingram. I just think that there are things that the offense needs to do to take a step in the right direction to kind of prove that they can be that next level team. That is where we'll need to kind of wait and see, I think. But I think they're poised and in the right position to do it. I think they have the right guy at the helm. I think they have the right coach and offense next. Uh-oh. My internet sucks. Can you hear me?
I can now. I got the gist, I think, of what you were saying.
Okay. My children used all of our internet stuff, and now it's super slow until tomorrow, or I guess Thursday, Friday, whatever the first is.
Yeah. Dang. They're sons of. That's it.
We had 33 devices on the Wi-Fi. Isn't that insane? That's a crazy amount.
It is.
I got 3. I don't know where the other 30 are.
It's phones, it's Alexas, it's everything. I probably own 5 of them for sure, probably.
Yeah, probably.
For sure. Yeah. So really quick, not really quick, but Cortland Sutton signs contract extension. So 4 years, $92 million. Sounds like it's between 41 or 42 guaranteed. So essentially kind of breaks down to a 2-year extension with some team options. Thoughts? What's your take for the people?
Yeah, it's a good deal. I think it's well deserved. I think Court showed last year that he can be a wide receiver 1. Even if he's maybe not a top end wide receiver 1, I think he's still a wide receiver 1 in this league, and he deserved to get a pay increase and some stability. And to be honest, I think he and Bo Nix just have a connection that we want to continue to see fostered. We want to continue to see grow. I think that they are pretty comfortable with one another. I think that as much as it is nice for Cortland, it's probably just as nice for Bo just to know his guys locked in for a while. And this kind of falls within a salary range that I think is fair, that I think is good for the team. You know, you're not overpaying a guy that probably won't be a superstar receiver, you know, but is going to be a really solid pass catching option, red zone threat that you can rely on. And I think that, you know, to have him around for another 5 years, and to be honest, you know, I don't necessarily want to trade Court, but it's a tradable contract too down the line if you need to. And so it's not so overinflated that you can't move him if you need to move on, or if he needs to move on. It's just a nice looking deal for all parties involved. And I wish that there were more of those in sports. It seems like you're overpaying most of the time, and this doesn't feel like an overpay, which is nice.
Yeah, you're overpaying, or you know, a guy sits on the market forever, right? It's like Justin Simmons, who was a good player, who they just, you know, like, yeah, you're not getting anything. And and hopefully, like, let's look at this a little bit. Let's go back. So within this last free agent cycle, right? So Talanoa Hufanga was the highest paid free agent that the Broncos got. Really, when looking at the total guarantees, so we got 3 years, $36 million, and $20 million fully guaranteed. And so, like that, when you look at Greenlaw essentially it's a 3-year deal with 2 club options. First year, like, is at $11 million, and then you have Evan Ingram, 2 years, 23, I believe. And so none of those really hamstring you, right? Because all of those guys come with injury concerns. That's probably why they're free agents. And so with that, like, this group continues to just make some good, smart deals. You get Pat Surtain done when it's done, and by the end of the next season, when he's Defensive Player of the Year, I think he's the 5th or 6th highest paid corner now. And so to me, that's like, that just goes to show where I think this team is at with really kind of being ahead of the contract game, or at least having a good, I think, a good position in it. Now, of course, we've had some restructures that kick some cans down the road, maybe of a guy like McGlinchey and Powers, who maybe those are guys that you feel like you can move on from. But in the end, like, they have a really good offensive line. So it's not even like you paid guys that can't play. You got you probably had Mike McGlinchey's best pass blocking season he's ever had, which I think is a great win. And then at least Ben Powers struggled a little bit more in pass protection, but in run blocking, I think PFF had him as the top rated guard or close to. And so, there's not a lot of albatrosses out there. And so with that, then I feel really comfortable with, you got Nick Benito up and Zach Allen up. And I'm sorry to JFM, but those are the 2 guys that take priority. I think you have 2 all-pro players versus another guy who's a good player. But those 2 guys are priorities. And I think I wouldn't be shocked if both of those deals get done and announced, and it's the same kind of feel. Like, it was a fair deal, and and the Broncos get some flexibility later to be able to continue to build a winner, and the player gets what they get. And I think that happens too when you have a wealthy ownership group, right? Cash over cap. We've talked about that before.
Yep.
I don't know how much of that $42 million was at signing, right? But I bet when it comes out, it probably is going to be a pretty good high number. And it's like, hey, you get $30 million when you sign this piece of paper.
Right.
Because all that money has to go in an escrow. So it all has to be available within, I think, 10 days. It's something like that, within 2 weeks. And so when you have an ownership group that can do that, you got guys that are willing to take maybe a lower annual per year basis because of the guarantee of cash. And especially when you get this much up front. It's hard to ask Jackson Holiday or Ethan Holiday, right?
Yeah.
You get $9 million, high school kid, if you sign to play for the Rockies. Even though, like, you're probably like, oh man, like, maybe I should go next year. But it's like, that's $9 million in your hand now, right? It's like you invest half and never. And so it's a tremendous asset. And it seems like the Broncos are utilizing it to their benefit. That's for sure. And with that, I think this team is now in a really strong place to continue to add deals like that. And so I think it's a win. It's a win for Cortland. I think it also shows the good faith. Like, he played last year, kind of a good soldier. You have a good season, we'll reward you. And the team did. And I think that because of that too, I think that helps with the culture, right? Like, this George Payton, at least he's been here, has rewarded his guys. So he's paid guys, whether it was Tim Patrick or Cortland or, Quinn Miners now, which looks like that's a great deal. Guys like that you're keeping around. And so, Alex Singleton, even at the time, right? And then he comes out with the leading tackler in the league. It's just good stuff like that. And I really like where they're at. You got a good mix of really good scouting going on when you bring in guys like Devon Vele and even Jaleel McLaughlin, right? Who's a guy is challenging to make the team. He shouldn't have been on the team in the first place, right? Like, that's a guy that everyone overlooked, right? Didn't go drafted, all that kind of stuff. And so I think you really got to like how this front office is meshing. And that to me is kind of what goes back to the, is this team for real? And I think so. And I think especially because Sean has a vision. Sean Payton knows how to win. Super Bowl winning coach, and has won in a variety of ways with its kind of defense first, prolific offense. He's kind of figured out how to do all or both. And you have a guy that gets him the ingredients that he's looking for, so that, in my opinion, the coaching hasn't suffered. They have a really good coaching staff. They're intact, really consistent. For the most part, guys have only left for promotions, right? Like, most of the guys have stayed. And so it all kind of comes full circle. So I'm excited about the deal for Court. I root for him. I think even though he hasn't been, an elite receiver, I think looking at the tiers, he's right where he should be, top 15 kind of receiver. And I think, to me, he got paid as such, and he has always seemed like a guy that still feels like he has stuff to prove. And with his relationship with Bo Nix, I think that money will look worth it. It'll continue to look like a fair deal.
Yeah, I think that with Sean and George, that they seem to be very in lockstep as far as what they're looking to build, which is nice. I think you see a lot of high-profile coaches and GMs work together, and it doesn't go very well. They have different, ideologies or different approaches to how they want to build a team. And if you just kind of look at the last couple drafts, I think they're looking for very specific types of players. I think they are able to identify what they feel this team needs and are able to kind of go and attack those positions. I've been impressed with how they have managed this whole salary cap situation, even though the Russ Wilson thing was such a swing and a miss. Really, their ability to kind of manage since cutting him and dealing with the dead cap and dealing with what that means for how they need to build this roster. It's been impressive. It's impressed me, not just as a fan, but just if you kind of look at some of the teams that are struggling to do that, you feel like you have competent guys in place. And I think that is huge for the future of this team. And hopefully, this is a duo that sticks around for a while and can bring this team a lot of success. But just to echo what you're saying, I think the leadership from top down, everyone's invested, everyone's bought in. They're drinking the Kool-Aid. So I think it's only fair that we jump on board.
Yeah, I think if you look at it, he's, so Cortland Sutton is tied with Calvin Ridley in an average per year salary, behind Michael Pittman, Jalen Waddle, DJ Moore, T. Higgins, which is still crazy that T. Higgins makes more than DJ Moore or Devonta Smith, with all of those things anyway. But even guaranteed at signing, look at it, he is down the list. And maybe that's because maybe they haven't calculated all of those things yet, but it's very respectable. And I think with that, I feel really, really good about where he's at. It sounds like he feels good about it. I think he understood maybe he left some money on the table. See you, brother. And with that, I think that goes to show again the culture. Hey, we're going to give you a good deal, good guarantee, good cash up front. Let's keep this manageable so that we can continue to add pieces. And Court bought in, which, for a guy like that who has been kind of yanked around a little bit, like that is what happened last year. They rewarded him. They gave him some incentives that he was able to get.
The ACL tear on top of it, like to have buy-in from a guy that is a leader on this team and to get what we feel is probably a little bit of a home discount is a nice feeling. And it just kind of, those are the kind of guys you want on your team. Those are the kind of guys that you want to build a team around. And so locking them up feels like a big win for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And, Bo Nix got on the podium yesterday, the day before, right? And it was talking about Court and just kind of what he means to the team and his leadership. And he went on to add, this team doesn't have any divas. We don't have any clowns. And so when you're wide receiver one, right, which is a diva position most of the time, it's dependent, throw me the ball so I can get paid. When he's not really that kind of guy, it really, in my opinion, it goes to show a little bit of the essence of what this team's made up of, and rewarding guys like that not only produce, right? So 18 touchdowns the last 2 years, about 900 yards if you average out both, over 1,000 last year. 80 plus catches this last year. It's, not only did he play well, he played with what he earned, but he's a guy that does it the way that you are, that you're asking them to, right? We want lunch pail guys. We want guys that will buy in the culture, do the dirty work. And you got to pay them too. You can't be a team that's asking guys of that. Go down there and get your face dirty and block. And then when you have a good statistical season on top of that, good luck. We appreciate what you've done for us. So,
even the systems that they run offensively and defensively, they require you just to have guys that buy in, right? They're not, I wouldn't say they're your typical offensive or defensive scheme. So, to have guys that are bought into what the coaches are selling and what the coordinators are facilitating is cool. I think we are out of time today, though, so we're going to wrap up. Anything you want to add real quick, Doc, before we take off?
No show next week. I got a all-day work functioning that can't get out of, but following that, we'll be back on as scheduled. Maybe we can try and do another day, but don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. But no, just super excited again about where Denver sports is at, minus the Rockies. Good luck to Ryan McMahon out there. Sounds like at least this version of the Rockies are making some deals, getting some prospects back, which when you're the worst team in baseball, you should do that.
Yeah, probably should make some moves if you're losing most of your games. Well, appreciate everyone for being here. Thank you. Be safe out there. Be kind to one another. And if you need a sports prescription, ask a doctor.
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Simcoe's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast racking up the flight miles. So high, I might never come down, so what, this is my lifestyle. Wait a minute. Work hard for the car, so that's why it's all tinted. Wait a minute. Had a real late night, woke up with my